Hello, Sports Recap fam. It's been a long time since I did a video, but I'm on here now. The workload is finally calming down, so I'll hopefully show up with more frequency. Lots to talk about with the ending of college basketball. Um, let's talk about Carolina's journey there. Um, Carolina started out slow, as you know. Carolina got a #1 seed in the Midwest region. You can you could you can construct a good argument for whether Carolina was the true #1 seed when they put Kansas as the #2 seed and the regionals in St. Louis, 5 hours from Kansas. Now that doesn't make sense to me, but it's whatever. So the Vermont game, we started out very slow. The first half, it almost seemed like we came out like we were entitled to win. And while a 16 hasn't beaten the one, it's gotten really close. UNC Asheville Syracuse. There you go. You talking about history? That should have been some history, but it is what it is. Um, Carolina grinded it out. I think McAdoo ignited the crowd and ignited the team. He had a ridiculous putback dunk in the first half of the Vermont game. It was ridiculous. And then we came out after halftime. We played Carolina basketball. We beat Vermont by 19, even though the margin was about as much like 26 late. Now the second round is when we have issues. The Creighton problem. People already knew, because this was John Henson's first game back. You already knew John Henson still had a wrist problem. It wasn't 100%. So, not surprisingly, Creighton can't have the game plan of, hitting the wrist a couple of times. But, to me, there's a clear difference between just trying to play put somebody's injury against them in the game and going malicious after it. Like, case in point, when I forget what happened, I think John Henson got fouled or something, and that boy Grant Gibbs smacked that wrist a couple more times, and John Henson got up in his face. That boy's lucky. John Henson would have knocked that boy out had it not been for the bigger goal at hand. Like, let's be honest. John Henson got that technical, and while I guess Creighton was happy the technical happened, that's the last thing Creighton wanted. I bet you at the end of the day they regret it. Because that technical got the Greensboro Coliseum ridiculously loud for like the next few possessions, and it put the game virtually out of reach. Like, Creighton was like within 6 a couple of times late, but it never really felt like that. And then we blew them out. So my problem with Creighton in general was that teams that are not as good as you do two things. They either try to play you straight up and beat you playing their game, which you should do, or they're going to foul the crap out of you with no intentions of winning. And yeah, lesser teams can play more physical, but there is a boundary when more physical becomes malicious intent. We're not going to win. We're just going to end your chances. And Creighton gave me that second one. Like when that guy it was a hard foul to Marshall. Is whatever. That guy's going to take the fall for it. It is what it is. Because you already had the wrist tapping and whatnot. Tyler Zeller got like booked in one of the possessions by Echenique. Everything was so malicious about that game that Creighton will get the downfall for it. And right now, I do not like anything Creighton. I don't like their coach. Doug McDermott's a good player, but his dad is a fool. I'm not a big fan of Creighton at all. At face value, it didn't seem like the Kendall Marshall thing was a big deal. But then we learned after the game it was a fractured wrist. And immediately, our fan base was like, oh my gosh, it's not going to happen. We're not going to win. But a good contingent of the fan base continued to believe that rally around the people that's on the court, even though Kendall's off the court. Because we still have games. We can't just give them up. So the Ohio game was quite the fight. I don't think anybody expected that, including myself. But Ohio, they're a lesser team. They played us straight up. Credit them and their coach for coming out and playing us straight up and trying to beat us playing their game. They were shooting the lights out from three, keeping themselves in the game, and those threes nearly won them the game in regulation. Like, we had to fight ourselves back. Again. Reggie Bullock came through the clutch. and shoot a three to keep us within reach or give us a small lead. Funny because Harrison Barnes wasn't the one keeping us to the clutch. Now, he didn't deserve the criticism he got, but he was not nearly as effective as he usually is. Our team accounted for 24 turnovers that game. That's Ohio's game plan: get steals, go out in transition. We played into Ohio's hand, and we made plays down the stretch in overtime. We really did. So we fought. So I think when the Kendall Marshall news happened, everybody expected us to be like, yeah, okay, the expectations go down. My expectations went down to like I think Elite Eight. I think that was probably as far as we were going to go. But I expected us to give Kansas a good game. I didn't expect us just to fold over and lose to Kansas like 20. Um, and I got what I wanted in the Kansas game. I really did. Our team cut off the turnovers. We played Kansas hard. We shot 63% in the first half. We played so darn well. The pace was first half. It was so frantic. Kansas could not keep up that pace in the second half. But the problem was that our offense in the first half didn't make it to the offense in the second half. Because I think if we had two halves like the first one, we would have made it out of the Midwest instead of Kansas. Instead, all we were missing chippies. The shots that were going in the first half weren't going in the second half. And then late in the game, when the game was still close, Bill Self switched to a triangle and two. Which, I mean, it's a joke defense. It worked against us in particular because we didn't have Kendall Marshall to drain threes and keep the team honest. Like, he played to our personnel. That's what a coach does. It's unfortunate that you have to play a team that's less than full strength, but Bill Self did what he needed to do. He set his team up for success, and his team came out and played, and that's what they won. Give Bill Self some credit here. And even then, our team had a chance to win the game. We were within 1 point, and then at that triangle and two stop, we could not make anything. Like, Stillman White had a good three, like it was going to go in, and didn't. I mean, so that was just the end of our journey. Kansas, who I thought has overachieved all year long, managed to get all the way to the title game, and Kentucky's exposed. No, I'll take that back. Kentucky, I said this, and when the Field of 68 came out, it was Kentucky's tournament, and only one team was capable of stopping Kentucky. That's the North Carolina team at full strength. In North Carolina, we were not able to get there because we had injuries out the wazoo. You had the Kendall Marshall, John Henson's wrist. He developed an ankle sprain during that game. Reggie's ankle problems. It was a mess. We already had Leslie and Dex on the bench. It just wasn't meant to be. Like, when I think about this year in general, it just wasn't meant to be. As far as the championship game was concerned, Kentucky pushed on the pedal and they kept going. Kansas could not keep up, and even when Kansas had in the second half, when Kansas had the deficit reduced to like 5 or 7, to me it felt like the biggest 5 or 7 point deficits I've ever seen. Like, as much as I wanted to get hyped that Kansas was going to actually probably overcome this and try to get a title, once again grit their way to a win, Kentucky kept filling the gas, and they were just not going to let Kansas get this. Their free throws were clutch. I think that was the flaws in both of their losses this year. They didn't make free throws. They had both games won, but they just let their team get right back in it. Kentucky is a really great team. Give them the credit. It just sucks that the one team that could give them a quality competition was not there with them. I think we would have truly seen the two best teams in the country had Carolina been there with them. I'm not saying Carolina would have won, but I think Carolina would have gave Kentucky a much better contest than Kansas did. That's that. Alright, I'm going to make another video about the ACC next year.